Hello, everybody. I am your host, Eric Dauernnheim, Bolton the Bird, or the Redhead, whatever you want to call me. And with the association of Team Sneap and Sneak Gaming, you're listening to the Win In podcast. On this week's episode, we have a special guest that I happen to know personally. He has won 2 ProQuests to earn himself a couple of PTIs, and now has just won the Battle Hardened event in Dallas to earn yet another, and this time permanent PTI. But that's not the most impressive part yet. My guest has done all of this at the age of 16. His name is Brodie Spurlock. Welcome to the show, Brody.
Thanks, Eric. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, happy to have you. It's kind of cool that, we got to know each other before, like, basically you kind of exploded as far as, like, putting out your name out there.
Yeah, I'm glad I also got to know you before you sadly moved out of Texas. We all miss you here. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I know. I really do miss the Dallas scene. It is quite competitive, and I do miss that part. But, we got some competitive people here in Vegas as well.
for sure.
Well, so anyhow, how about we just get to it? You just won your Battle Hardened in Dallas. How do you feel from that? First off.
I feel great. I really did put a lot of time into testing Blitz in the last month or so, and of course, this was my first actual PTI, like you said, like that can be redeemed for any future event. So, most of all, I'm really just hyped to have one of those, and right now, my plan is to use that for whenever the first World Championship rolls around. So it just feels nice to know that I'll be able to play in that, I guess.
All right, yeah, yeah, I'm with you. Like, I'm using one for the first Pro Tour, which we will both be at, and then yeah, I want to be on that Worlds as well. So I'm gonna use second one there. So I'm happy that I'm gonna see you there as well.
Yeah, for sure. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. All right. Well, you said you prepared quite a bit for this, so I think I personally know this answer to this next question here. But why don't we just go ahead and go over it? Why did you choose Viscera for this event?
After several weeks playing the format, I personally do think that Viscera is the best deck by actually maybe more than most people would say. I think that if I had the same amount of practice on every hero, three that I would have considered taking into the Battle Hardened were probably Viscera, Oldhim, and Kano. Um, And out of those three, I still think Viscera has like the best edge into the field. And I also happen to have been playing in CC for like the whole ProQuest season. So if nothing else, just the experience that I had on Runeblade and Viscera in particular, kind of sent me in that direction. And then after playing and watching a lot of different matchups, I think he was best positioned.
Yeah, he was definitely up there, like the tier 1 for sure. And yeah, many people made that choice and would agree with you as far as what's the best hero to go with. And then yeah, I've never seen you play not Runeblade, so I kind of figured if I see Brody here, it's gonna be Mr. High.
Yeah.
All right, well, so being Viscera, what were the matchups that like were just like, yeah, that's an easy win, and what were the matchups that you were like thinking this one might be a 50-50 or worse?
I think the matchup that I felt most confident into, at least the matchup I expected to see a lot of that I felt confident into was Kasai. My I believe three of my first four Swiss rounds were Kasai,
Oh,
and I played one in the quarterfinals as well. So I think it was only those three in Swiss. So 4 out of 11 matches were Kasai. Um, that feels very, very favored for Viserai. I think um he's really good at taking turns off to kind of block out what she's doing while waiting to draw his, pop off setup cards. Um, and like every game goes differently, but after playing a lot of matches locally versus Kasai, it almost felt like Viserai couldn't lose unless he just got really bad draws over and over, just because of how well he weirdly seemed to be able to block in that matchup, which actually surprised me. I think a lot of Kasai lists are running less attack reactions than I expected, and if she's just coming at you with like a weapon for 5 and you block with 2 attack cards, and she doesn't have any reactions in hand. Like no matter how she splits up the damage, a 4 card hand from Viscerai can just stop her whole turn pretty consistently. So that is what I would say was like the good matchup, and I did see a lot of it.
Yeah.
Oldhim was, oh, yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
Well, yeah. Just I wanted to say on that is every Kasai player that I talked to that week was just like, yeah, it's an auto loss to Viscerai, which made me kind of think it was like, well, why play Kasai? I don't know. There's because I figured Viscerai would be pretty present, and you called it. I mean, if you played, you said like 4 out of your first 5 was Kasai. I mean, then you picked the deck to face the meta with.
Yeah, I think like earlier in the format, people there was like this supposed triangle of Viscerai beats Kasai, Kasai beats Oldhim, and Oldhim beats Viscerai. But I think that over time, I heard more and more Oldhim players say that they felt good into Kasai. So then, even though I think her deck is inherently powerful, I don't think she actually had great matchups going into the field.
I would agree on that. As an Oldham player, did Kasai give me some trouble? Yes, but did I feel like it was manageable? Yes. So yeah, I think Kasai just being the most consistent was the favorable trait of that deck.
For sure. She especially it's kind of I find this part really interesting, like how Viscerai plays better the more cards that are in his hand. Like 5 card hand Viscerai is so much better than 3 card. But Kasai can really consistently do a reasonable amount of damage with 2 to 3 cards, meaning she blocks well. Then it's kind of like this toss up because you don't necessarily want to be, I don't know, blocking in Blitz, or at least the decks that don't block in Blitz tend to be more explosive, and because you have such little life, that leads to winning more. But yes, all that to say, I agree. Kasai is very consistent and can play well with any number of cards in her hand.
All right. All right. So now I think I cut you off there. You were talking about Oldham being a tough matchup. Is that right?
Oldhim is a really interesting matchup.
Okay.
It is the one that I think is the most 50-50 for Viserai. After playing it a lot over like throughout skirmish season, I think that Viserai is a little bit favored if both pilots really know the matchup well. I think that it's very close and it can go either way. Like I played you twice over the weekend. I won once with a crazy explosive draw, and you kind of shut me down and fatigued me out the other. So it goes both ways. Um, I feel like if the Viserai kind of knows what to expect and can structure turns playing around Stalagmite and Blizzard and Ice reactions like as best as possible and kind of identify like how that matchup gets won, then if the Oldhim is only playing defensively and not putting pressure on, I think Viserai can manage to squeeze out a win most of the time. But I don't know. Like I said, it's 50-50. That was the one that I was the most like kind of okay, except for Kano. We'll get to Kano. But like the most unsure about, but like I would say I felt like I had like 52 to 55% win rate odds into Oldhim.
Yeah, I'd second that. Classically, Viscerai has been a tough matchup for Oldham. A winnable matchup, but a very tough matchup. And I would agree. I think it's about 50-50. And yeah, it's all about who's the player behind the deck at that point. All right, yeah, let's
I
talk
think
about.
there's
Go ahead, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say that matchup in particular, even in a format that's as fast as Blitz, has a lot of like really like small piloting decisions that are important.
Oh, definitely, absolutely. All right, so let's talk about Kano. You mentioned Kano there. Tell me what you were preparing there, or like what made you feel about on that matchup.
Kano was the deck that I was the most scared of. Just honestly, like other than the Viscerai Mirror, which is always scary, um, Kano, like I practiced against it. I felt like I had a pretty decent plan into it as far as like I played AB3 and kept Skeleta. Um, and like the plan is pretty much just like you can play if there are like 2 lines and one is gonna hold a blue in your hand longer or like I don't know leave you with a floating resource at the end of the turn and like somehow accomplish the exact same thing as the other line, then like obviously that's very situational, but like then you might go for that because it kind of helps you see what Kano's doing and give you longer to react to him. But I think ultimately as Viscerai, you just kind of have to put your cards on the table, present as much damage as you can, and hope that he doesn't like have it that turn. Because I think playing scared into Kano just gives them more time to set up and inevitably kill you. So I guess into Kano, I really just hoped that I won the die roll and that I drew well early and they didn't, and that I was able to put on as much pressure as possible. But yeah, that was my scariest matchup, I'd say.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, I would say there's most heroes going into Kano just kind of got to hope and pray. I mean, even Oldhim has probably the easiest time out of all the other heroes, but like even then, you're still hoping and praying because like Kano can just do it sometimes. Like can just get some busted hands, and there's just not much you can do with it.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so one memory I recall from the Battle Hardened event is it was the second round. All the Dallas locals were kind of huddled together, and it was a huddle of 1-1 players. We were all basically 1-1.
Yeah, like actually everyone. It was
Yeah.
really funny.
So, in this, we all knew going into this that you really could only afford one loss. If you're going to get your two losses, they had to be pretty late in the tournament. But
I
so
agree.
we're all 1-1 here. Um, you know, one thing I like to say, I guess, right now is that like there's part of the game which I think you've done very well on where you're when you're playing the game and seeing like lines of the game and like understanding, play patterns and the meta and your opponent and that sort of deal. But there's also a part of the game that is the mental aspect of the game. That is between rounds or even between turns. And so how did you use that part to recover from your first loss and moving forward?
So I played not too long ago. I played in the Calling Indianapolis, and in round one, I lost. And I think that that kind of um even though like I tried to remain positive and in a good headspace, I think I let that early loss affect me too much in the calling, and it affected my play a little bit going forward. And so then I tried to like intentionally, even before the Battle Hardened, I kind of tried to go in with the mindset of like just approach each game as its own game, and in each one I'm going to do the best I can to win. And like regardless of my previous record or what's in front of this game, I'm just going to focus on this one. And I think that it's really easy in a tournament, especially tournaments that like the more important they get, the more this becomes true. It's easy to constantly be thinking like all I need to do is win this game and I'm in top 8, or all I need to do is win this game and I have a PTI. And I think kind of just like really trying to get your brain to go back into the state of like I'm playing this game because I love the game, and like I'm just focusing on like these cards and my lines and like doing that, like playing this hero that I like to play, and not really worrying about like external factors like what's going on in the event or what I could win. Really helps mentally, and I don't think I'm uh perfect at like staying in that mindset by any means, but I did go in trying to approach it that way.
Yeah, I think that's pretty critical. Because it's such a snowball effect that can happen after your first loss. And then you're right when like the prizes get even bigger and bigger. It's really hard to try to just focus on the next round and not focus on what can be. Um, but yeah, all right. Thank you for that. So now, before we get into the top eight, because obviously you made it, you won the whole thing. Um, is there any memories from the first 8 rounds that stick out to you?
Um, so round two was my loss, obviously, which we kind of just talked about. It was a Viscerai mirror, and then there were the three Kasais, and those were the first 4 rounds. And then I think there are two things after that that kind of stand out. One of them was um against a Reinar in round 5. Reinar went first, and he did crazy Reinar things
Yeah.
where I got it. It was a Blood Rush Bella turn with 2 claws and a swing big for 10.
Whoa. Okay. First turn, huh?
Yeah, turn
Okay.
0, and then on it was a bit wild, and he still arsenaled. And I think I got like he intimidated once off of the discard, and then I blocked with 3 cards plus Bloodsheet Skeleton, and still went down to 10 on that turn.
Oh man.
So that was like a really, really scary start, and obviously in that moment, it was hard to maintain that mentality I was just talking about because like I was off to such a bad start going second on 10 life, and knowing that if I lost this game, there was almost zero chance of top 8.
Yeah.
And then I mean, there's not too much else to say. I did end up winning that game. I tried to, I mean, I played carefully and like kind of slowly edged back, and then eventually got to an explosive Viscera turn that took it home. But um, that was one of the more memorable in-game moments from the day, is just going to 10 on turn 0.
Yeah. I bet. I bet. All right. All right. So now you made top 8. All right. Now you're in the first round. Who is your first round opponent in top 8?
First round opponent was Kasai, and I was
Kasai.
going first. Yeah. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
No, yeah, I was just affirming. So this is a matchup that you want at this point.
Sure. I was fourth seed, and the Kasai was fifth seed. So going first into Kasai, I did feel very confident. Um, this is pretty much the best quarterfinals matchup I could have asked for.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And just presuming the game just kind of went like any other Kasai game, or did you notice anything different?
It was, I'm trying to remember the details of it. It was a slightly weird Kasai game. I actually think in that game I did a lot more blocking than usual. I got a couple of like brick hands in the sense that it was just like 4 attacks that didn't have go again, or like 3 attacks that didn't have go again and a rune flash or something, like with no rune chance. Um, so I started off on the back foot, kind of like I went first. I don't remember if I made rune chance on turn 1 or not, but I started off for 2 or 3 hands just kind of blocking out Kasai, and slowly, damage was leaking through a tiny bit to my life total. And then at some point I did Viscerai things with like Mordred Sonata, and then kind of became like put the pressure back on them and eventually took that game. So I would say it was actually not the typical matchup because I was initially playing very defensively, and that's not super usual, but it ended kind of how it always ends, I guess, which is with that one big turn that is just a little bit too much for Kasai to handle because she just presents these consistent turns, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, it's really hard for Kasai to get tempo back after such a turn as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so Kasai down. That was like you said. That was probably the best matchup you could ask for. So now we're into the semifinals. What are we facing?
The semifinals, I was up against Brendan Patrick on Viscerai,
That's right, the
which,
mirror.
yeah, that alone is scary. Like, obviously he's a talented and well-respected player. This is the first time I've gotten to play him, and he is on the deck that I fear most, which is my deck.
Okay, well, so I was looking at y'all's two decks. There's a bit of differences between the two. Do you feel that the card choices that you made gave you the edge in that game, or what ended up getting you the W versus Brendan Patrick?
There are some interesting comments as far as card choices. I do not think that um the deck building differences. I've not actually seen his list, so I'm not sure exactly what they are. I know that one is that I play Arcanite Shard, and he and most Viscerais do not. I don't think that anything's like that actually made a difference in that particular game, if I'm being honest. I don't think I saw that card.
Okay,
Actually, I might have, but there was one interesting card choice that I wanted to bring up.
yeah, let's hear it.
Um, when we presented equipment, I was playing what is for me like just the standard equipment. Arcanite, Skullcap, Bloodsheath Skeleton, Spellbound Creepers, and then Vexing Quillhand.
Okay.
And Brendan was playing the same thing, but instead of Skullcap, he had Hope Merchant's Hood.
Yeah, yeah, that is his ace in the hole. Yours was definitely Arknight Shard. That's the one that you run that no one else ran, and his was this Hope Merchant's Hood. So talk to me. Did he use it?
He did use it. He used it at a very critical point later in the game, which I'll get to. I think it just, in general, I kind of wanted to comment. It surprised me at first because obviously I had not seen a Viscerai running it yet, but I actually think that it makes a lot of sense in Blitz because card quality is uh really key for like getting the right 5 cards to kill your like if you're not under extreme pressure and you have like Mordred Tide and Sonata and 2 other cards that work well in that turn, like a Mabrian Skies or anything, and say Revel, or like, just the ideal package of non-attacks that do this crazy explosive turn, then you're almost locked to win the game unless your opponent can really do something special to get back from that. So I think that playing that card, which helps you A, either get out of a dead draw, or B, try to find the pieces to have that explosive turn, um, could very well be more valuable than the, up to 3 life that Skullcap provides. I actually really liked that choice, and I've been thinking about it more in the last couple days, and um, I kind of wish there was more like Blitz season because I want to try it now.
Yeah, get some testing on it. All right, all right. Well, how did you feel that your ace in the hole Arknight Shard did throughout the event?
Throughout the event on Sunday and kind of the whole season, I liked it a lot, honestly. I feel like there were a lot of situations where having that on a Mordred turn felt really nice. Like the extra 2 rune chance paired with Skeleta was like an extra card off Sonata, or the rune chance created from it helped reduce the cost of like Amplify or Rune Flash. Or there was this playline that came up weirdly often where I would pitch 2 to Rattlebones a Swarming Gloomveil, and then immediately play the Gloomveil. And so instead of attacking for 3, it was attacking for 4 because of the additional rune chant, and all sorts of little advantages like that. And I do understand the argument from a lot of Viscerai players that you don't play Shard um, for 2 reasons. One, it's a complete miss off of Sonata, and Sonata is like the biggest and best thing that your deck wants to do, and Shard detracts from that. And B, it doesn't block and it can't be arsenaled. So there have been turns in Blitz where my opponent has a threatening on hit of some kind and I need to block with 3 to 4 cards, and I end up blocking 9 with 3 cards and just holding Shard in hand and drawing 3 because I can't do anything with it.
Right.
And that does feel bad for sure. But ultimately, I feel like there were a lot more cases where it helped me and kind of gave me a little bit of an edge that led to winning the game, than cases where it hurt me.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it proved to be the case. So, all right. All right. So now we beat Brandon Patrick. That got to feel good under your belt now, don't it?
Yeah,
You
I
can
will.
say you beat a pro.
I mean, yeah, it was um felt good obviously to like advance, and at that point I knew I had a PTI. I did want to comment at the end of that game, there was kind of an interesting sequence.
Okay.
Um, I'm trying to remember what happened exactly. Oh, okay, sorry, okay, I remember. So I don't remember how many turns into the game we were, but we both had relatively high life totals. And I had like the hand. I had like a Mordred Swarming Rebel Sonata sort of hand,
Ooh, okay.
and Vexing and Skeleta were still up. And Brendan had a 4 card hand, I believe, and played Mabrian Skies into Spellblade Assault, creating 3 rune chants, pitching a blue, and he had 1 card left. So most of the time, either that card is going in Arsenal. Oh wait, yes, that's correct. Okay. Either that card's going in Arsenal, it's a Rune Flash, or it's a Rebel that are going to be played right before Rosetta, and then
Makes
Rosetta's
sense.
going to finish that off.
Right.
And with any of those cases, I knew that I was fine, and I would like survive with a reasonably high life total still, I think above 5, and would get to do my pop-off turn and probably win that game. So I did not block, or I did put Skeleta in front of Spellblade Assault just to get the 2 block value out of it, I
Mm-hmm.
believe. Um, the I'm trying to remember the exact details. I believe I did that, and I took 2.
Okay.
meaning that Brendan created 2 rune chants off of yellow mob skies, putting him to 5.
Okay.
And then something that I admit I did not expect. He popped his Quill Hand and popped his Skeleta, and the last card in his hand was a Sonata.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So now we're in the one situation where he might actually be presenting enough damage that I don't get my turn. So
Yeah.
goes into an X of 3 Sonata, revealing 6 cards. I do not remember exactly what he got, but it was I, I want to say 2 attacks with Go Again. It might have been only 1 attack with Go Again. The details are blurry and I don't remember what my life total was, but he had some sort of like relatively okay hit off of his Sonata, so he could do things. Dealt some arcane damage, attacked me with um whatever the card was, and the 7 rune chants, created another rune chant, and then a Rosetta Thorn. And I remember being on 5 life.
Okay.
Or wait, was it 5 or 6 life? It was 6 life. 6 life against a Rosetta Thorn, coming in for 1, 2, and 2. So I take the 3 arcane and go to 3.
All
And
right.
then basically at this point, I know that if I get my turn and just get to uninterrupted, go off and do my whole Mordred Sonata sequence thing, that there's a very small chance I lose. Brendan no longer has AB1, and there's just so much damage coming in that he's going to be on the back foot, even though my life total is low. Or he possibly just dies because of how explosive the turn is. However, I do know that there's still 1 copy of Sonata in his deck, and a sneaky little play that Viscera can pull sometimes is Spellbound Creeper's Sonata in on the opponent's turn to kill them.
Oh, okay. Yep. Yep. I've seen that.
So I ended up blocking with my unused Spellbound Creepers so that I only took 1 physical from the blade to put me to 2. To basically just reduce the chances that I died off of a Sonata from him, because the way I was going to sequence my turn, if he hit uh well off of Sonata X of 2, or sorry, X of 1, or even X of 2, I think was possible. I was going to lose. So anyway, go to my turn. As it turns out, he did draw Sonata and a blue
Okay.
attack card.
Oh boy.
And as I understand it, he drew two red non-attacks in addition to that. So it's this kind of that made it hard for him, I think, because in order to activate creepers, you need to have already blocked with an attack card.
Mm-hmm.
But if he was going to Sonata and kill me, he needed to pitch a blue. So I play Mordred, I play Gloomveil for 2 and 4. If this Gloomveil, if he doesn't put an attack in front of the Gloomveil, I know that I am pretty much safe, because with a Rebel after it, followed by Sonata, I can deal so much arcane damage that he'll never get the chance to block and use creepers. And he didn't block the Gloomveil, so at that point I won the game. But then there's kind of an interesting discussion of if he had, because later in the turn he ended up popping Hope Merchant's Hood to try to find some sort of Sonata kill, and as it turned out, there was too much arcane damage to do it. So that's how I won. But there's kind of an interesting discussion of if he had shuffled away the 2 red non-attacks with Hope Merchants in response to being attacked by Gloomveil and found a red, or any other attack card and blocked with it and gone off with creepers, there is a chance that I could have actually died that turn. I think that we kind of decided that based off the information he had at the time, it perhaps was still wrong to do that, but I don't know. It's interesting. And it was a really interesting Vismir to get to play in the quarters, so I just kind of wanted to spell out those sequences that happened.
Yeah, no, that's definitely helpful. I mean, that kind of just goes to show like the complexity of it. Just playing that mirror and then playing at such a high level too, to not only know what it takes to kill your opponent, but also know what it takes to die from it. And sure enough, like I mean, you called it. I mean, you prepared for the Sonata, and keeping yourself alive with that Spellbound Creepers was the play that kept you going to the finals.
Yeah, I mean, it scares me a little bit because like there was a world where I still died, but yes, I mean it did work out. I made the play that I thought was best educated and like based off what he could draw, and in the end, yeah, I did win.
All right, well, so now we're going to the final round. We are facing what hero?
Facing a Briar.
All right, I love that. I knew the guy. He's a cool guy, and seeing a Briar always makes me a little giddy. So we got a Runeblade v Runeblade again, but this one's a little different. Tell me how that went.
So, like you, first of all, I was just happy to see Briar in the finals. I personally think that Briar is like top 5 or 6 decks in this format, and maybe doesn't get quite enough love for how good it is.
Definitely.
Um, I was happy that I was going first for sure. As it turned out, I was fourth in Swiss, and I was lucky enough to play against fifth seed, eighth seed, and seventh seed, so I got to go first all 3 times.
There you go.
So that helped. As it turned out versus the Briar, I believe on turn 1 I only made 1 rune chant, which, is fine. I made a rune chant, arsenaled. And then on Briar's first turn, going second, I think they had a pretty underwhelming hand. They attacked for like a total of 5 or 6 or something like that, with like 3 cards. I think it was a fused Force of Nature into like a blue what's the card? Uh
Let's see, was it Burgeoning?
blue like burgeoning, yeah.
Okay.
I believe that's what it was. That like the 2 for 5, or if it's from Arsenal gets +1.
Yep, that would be it.
It was from hand though. So I think it was for 6, and I think I blocked 6. I had a hand of like all red non-attacks. Or sorry, all red attacks without go again. So I actually kind of wished I could have blocked more. So I blocked
Right.
with 2 cards. And then on my turn I had these two, like I think I had a Swarming Gloomveil and a red Spellblade Strike. And I don't know what the card in Arsenal was, but I already had a different card in Arsenal that was going to stay there. So I just pitched Gloomveil to attack with red Spellblade Strike for the 1 rune chant from the previous turn plus 4 physical, and then it made a rune chant.
Right.
Prior player took 5, went to 15. Now we go back to his turn. He has set up an Arsenal, and my 4 off the top are like very good cards. They're like what I want to see. The Mordred Sonata thing that I've been, saying is like the ideal hand.
Right. Okay.
This is where it gets scary, and this is where I think I am thankful for like the mindset I had going into this game, because I think if I had gone in like playing scared, I would have defended differently on this turn. And I think I was uh I don't know, I just like I'm thankful that I was kind of able to just kind of keep my head clear and really think logically about it. My opponent played red Plunder Run from Arsenal into unfused Force of Nature, creating Embodiment of Lightning, and then Enlightened Strike choosing +2. So it was an E-Strike for 10, and on hit it drew 2 cards.
Okay. Well, that's pretty good. I mean, that's so
That is terrifying
that
to
feels like
see.
if you don't block it, that's gonna get even worse. So, did you choose not to block it, or did you have to block that?
That is the interesting part. I chose to take 10.
Okay. All right.
And I think that choosing to take 10 was correct. And I think that if I had, um, I don't know, if I had gone into the game with the wrong mindset, I would have just thrown 3 cards in front of it and gotten behind on tempo.
Right. Yeah, that's fair. That is absolutely fair.
Even though, I mean, it is scary. So now Briar's at 15, I'm at 10. He had 1 card in hand, so the 2 off E-Strike put him to 3 cards in hand. He breaks chain, plays blue Captain's Call, choosing +2.
Okay.
And then plays a Snatch. Snapdragon Scalers is still up, so now it's Snatch for
Oh my
6.
gosh,
If it
this
hits,
is
I
gonna be
draw.
perfect for him.
I know, right? I mean, yeah. It's quite the turn. But like, if the Snatch hits, he's going to draw an additional 2 cards. So at this point, I did have to block. I can't go to 4 and then try to not die off of the 3 cards in his hand. That's unrealistic.
Right.
So I put the least important card from my hand down, in addition to Skullcap and Skeleta. I did have less life, so I was blocking 7 of the 6.
Okay.
I still have no idea whether the Briar player played Lightning Press in his deck. I assume that that is in the list, but I'm not sure.
Let's see. I
And
have the list here. Let's see if he does. He runs 2 red lightning presses.
oh man, okay. Well, that was not the 1 card in his hand.
Okay.
And I was staring down the 1 card in his hand and thinking that if that's a red Lightning Press, I might not win this game, because he plays Press, I take 2, he draws 2, and oops,
Yeah,
snaps.
just
But
yeah, exactly.
um, so the block for 7 was good. He did choose to flip snaps and pitch the last card just to push a little bit of extra damage with Thorn.
Okay.
So I took that. I went down to 6. So now we've got me at 6, Briar player at 15. He passes without an arsenal, and Now, I believe my hand is Mordred Tide, Revel, and Runeblood. Oh, okay. There actually was no Sonata involved. It was Mordred, Revel, and Swarming, which those alone are great, obviously. But
Oh yeah.
and then the card in Arsenal was Swarming. So on the turn before, I guess now it's all kind of coming together. On the turn before, when I drew 4 red attacks, the card in Arsenal was also a red attack.
Okay.
So on this turn, Fire's at 15. I play Mordred Tide, and I play Swarming from Arsenal. So it's attacking for, or sorry. 1 rune chant in play. Play Mordred Tide, pop Vexing, go
Okay.
up to 4 rune chants in play.
Yep. Yep.
Attack for 4 and 4 with Swarming, making 2 up Viscera. And the pop Vexing was actually really important because if the Briar player allows the on hit from Swarming to go through, I have a guaranteed win because I just play Revel and play Rosetta, and he can't block the
Oh
Arcane.
yeah, for sure.
So that feels good. If he chooses to block with his Aether Ironweave and a card, which Aether Ironweave, yeah, still hadn't been blocked with, then I would have to rethink it and figure out. It would probably still would just be. In that case, it would be Revel Swarming because 2 extra rune chance. Anyway, he's at 15. He immediately takes his pen and goes to 11, and then he reaches for the life pad again, and my heart starts pumping a little bit because if he takes the 4 and goes to 7, that
It's
means I've
over.
won the event.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then he pauses, and then he puts his pen back down, and he stares at the gloom veil for a couple minutes, which is perfectly understandable. But I'm sitting here panicking, please just take it.
Now, now luckily in this event, you got a mask on, so your face is pretty covered. You got those big glasses on, so maybe you can't necessarily see what's going on, like you're sweating or whatnot. But do you hold composure pretty well here, or are you biting at the chomp?
No, I mean I do think I am relatively good at not actually physically showing those emotions. I'm just kind of internally
Okay,
heart beating, and I just kind of
definitely.
yeah, I just I don't know. I'm just kind of staring at the playmat, waiting, hoping. As it turns out, he did take the 4 and give me the on hit. I think I don't from his perspective, I don't know what his hand was. It's quite possible that was just the right play because if he blocked, he was too far behind anyway, and he just had to hope I didn't have Rebel. That's understandable. Um, but as it turned out, I did have Rebel, and by taking the 4, it meant I could play Rebel Thorn, and that was the end of the game.
Yep. Well, and that will do it too. All right, and so that's basically wraps that up too, because I'm assuming that's exactly what you did there, and to win the game, is that correct?
Actually, I put as soon as I put Rebel on the table, he conceded. But yes.
Yeah, yeah, because he's a smart player. He knows. Okay, and then boom, there we are, the first permanent PTI, the world's PTI. And
Hey.
yeah, and a nice play mat, and the first gold foil that is a legendary for yourself.
That is correct.
Yeah. And then I know the answer, but do you want to tell everyone what you opened?
Dun 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 dun. It was a Crown of Seeds.
Which is probably one of the best cards in the game right now as far as equipment goes.
I yeah, I was happy obviously. I actually thought about leaving it sealed and selling it, and I decided to just crack it, so I
Yeah.
guess I'm thankful I did that.
Yeah, I I had that thought as well on one of mine. I was like, it might be fun just to try. But yeah, it's way more fun just to open it up and for the first time and see it. So,
Sure.
congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, quite a story, quite a bit of success, and you know, it wasn't since the beginning, not even the beginning, maybe a little bit halfway through Tales of Aria that you started this game. So quite the journey.
Yeah, I've had a ton of fun. I just started the first time I played, I swung by an LGS and got 2 Monarch Blitz decks and played with a friend. And slight tangent story. For the first 2 games we played, we didn't know about the rule where both players draw back up on the first turn. So whoever went first just kept violently winning by a ton.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It was quite great. But and then a week or two, I think a week later, I went to my first armory. And since then I've been playing upwards of 3 armories a week and just constantly playing this game. I love it so much.
Yeah, you are quite the fanatic, but it's pretty cool. I mean, like I said before, you quite made the name for yourself, so you're doing great. So, talking about making the name for yourself and doing great, what's the plan for the Pro Tour? What are we looking at going into it?
That is a question I've been agonizing over. Um, so there's three worlds, I guess. World one is Starvo does win Taiwan, and he wins, what is it, at least three of the 4 or 5 Battle Hardens
Right.
that are CC, and he gets LL.
Yep.
If
Makes
that
sense.
is the case, yeah, I mean, I would be happy if he was gone, personally. I don't love him as a concept, like as a hero. Um, if that does happen, and there are no other bans to anything, it will certainly be on Viserai. Um, I'll just tune my Viserai as best as possible for whatever I think the new field would be. It's obviously a bit hard to predict, but there are some ideas floating around, and I think that Viserai would probably be the strongest hero in that field.
Okay.
Just like in a vacuum, his cards are very strong, and I want to play him. I have a lot of practice on him.
Yeah, definitely.
World 2 is Starvo doesn't LL, but on May 2nd, LSS decides to ban him and or something else. Like I think that they have a philosophy that they don't like to ban problems before those problems actually become like a real issue, like theoretical future issues.
Definitely.
Um so I don't expect anything except Starvo to get banned on May 2nd. And so
But you have heard the
if
rumors, right?
that my poor Skeleton is getting the
Yep,
axe.
yep.
Yeah, I
There's quite
know.
a bit of different ones, but the most like I guess popular one that I hear is that Osso Skeleton. So if you prepared for that,
Um I know that it's a possibility. I have not accepted it because I like the card too much.
that's fair.
I mean, obviously it's very strong. I just really like playing with it in combination with creepers and doing all of the fun. Like I just find those lines very fun. I do get that it's perhaps a bit too good, and so it might be healthier for it to go at some point. But that aside, if Skeletor were to get banned, I think in the coming weeks, even before the announcement, I might try playing Viserai without that card. I think it would
Okay.
still be very strong, but and kind of like see what that looks like. Odds are I would if Starvo and Skeleta go, it will probably be taking some Runeblade into the PT. Um, perhaps Skeleta less Viserai, if that's a word, or Chain. CC Briar is also a possibility. That's like the world that I want to happen the least because it's the one I'm the least sure about.
Mhm. Yeah, that makes sense.
And then option 3 is there are no changes, and I have to decide whether I think Viserai can OTK these Starvos consistently, or if I have to bite the bullet and play the evil star of the show.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll find out, won't we? All right.
Yeah,
So yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
oh, just that I plan to test that matchup a lot and kind of see. Right now, sadly, I'm leaning towards I just have to play Starvo because I think it's just winning with Viserai would be an uphill battle, and Starvo has better odds, but I mean, we'll find out. I'm gonna test a lot to see.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, like the trifecta goes is that Prism beats Starvo, Starvo beats Viscerai, and Viscerai beats Prism.
Mhm.
And to some degree on each of those. But yeah, we'll find out. I mean, their BNR announcement really left more questions than answers. So I think I think that's smart to accept that we just don't know, and just prepare for each one individually. All
Yeah.
right, so we're gonna do a little outro thing. We're gonna try out here. See how this goes. This is just a quick round of questions. Just give me the first thing that comes to your head. No thinking about it. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Mac or PC?
Oh, Mac.
Coke or Pepsi?
I don't like either. How about Sprite?
Okay. Peanut butter and
I mean, just peanut butter for me personally.
okay, okay. Jif or GIF?
I have to say GIF.
Okay. What are you listening to right now, as far as like music wise?
That's a good question. I kind of I tend to listen to just like whatever music is popular. Um, the I haven't actually listened to much music super duper recently. I'll say like just the very basic answer of like popular pop music, and
That's
also
okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
also
that'll work.
country. I When
Oh
I
yeah.
was young, I really hated country music, and recently I don't know. There's a bit of a jam there. I kind of like it.
So are you old country? You new country?
I would say new country.
New country. Okay. What are you watching right now, as far as like TV shows?
Oh, okay. My favorite TV show is The Blacklist.
Okay. Okay.
It's a like crime mystery show, which is kind of my general favorite genre. And season 9 is in the process of coming out. Season 10 is confirmed. So that is always my number one. And then I'm also waiting for season 4 of Manifest, along with a lot of people. Those are some of the biggest two, probably.
Gotcha. Gotcha. All right. Favorite class?
Favorite class in Flesh and Blood?
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's easy. The infamous answer, Runeblade.
Favorite hero?
Favorite hero? That is harder than you might expect. I will say Viscera because I've had the most success with him, I've had the most practice with him, and I do really like him inherently. However, I also really, really like Chain, and at some point I want to practice more with Chain. So it's a tiny bit of a tie there.
Okay. Yeah, the free go again is always nice. All right.
Hmm.
Favorite card?
This is one that I have thought about before, and it's difficult. And my current answer is Spellbound Creepers.
All right. Spellbound Creepers. I didn't expect that. That's a good one. All right. Well, Brody, I would just want to thank you once again for coming on, being our first ever guest, and quite a guest you are. Is there anything that you'd like to say that we didn't cover, or plug anything, or shout out to anyone?
Um, Massive shout out to my mom for driving me all around so that I can play Flesh and Blood and supporting me. I genuinely could not possibly do it without her. So big thanks there. And then yeah, thank you for having me on. This was great.
Oh yeah, thank you, thank you. All right, so this has been the Win and End podcast in association with Team Sneap and Sneap Gaming. I want to thank you all personally for listening, and until next time, keep fabbing.